He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. His jaw shattered, his teeth gone, his tongue half torn. The man who had sentenced thousands to death could no longer form a single word to save his own life. And here's the shocking part. He did it to himself. This is how Maximilien Robespierre, the architect of the French Revolution's bloodiest chapter, became its final victim. 24 hours, one fall, and a single gunshot that ended an era cut to thunder. Marching boots, the distant toll of church bells that haven't rung in months. Paris, July 27th, 1794. The day the terror turned on its master. The hall of the National Convention hums like a swarm of hornets. 800 deputies crowd the benches, men who once feared to even whisper against Robespierre. He climbs the rostrum slowly, clutching papers that tremble in his hand. His face, pale, drawn, sleepless. His voice, cracked, uncertain. This is not the iron orator who ruled by words. This is a man fraying at the edges. He begins to speak. 2 hours of paranoia. Enemies everywhere. Plots in the dark. Virtue must defend liberty, he says, but the words fall flat. But here's the chilling twist. He refuses to name names. He accuses everyone, and no one, every deputy hears the same message. He's coming for me next. Murmurs rise, then whispers, then outrage. Eyes that once worshipped him now narrow with hatred. The speech ends. Scattered claps, thin, sarcastic. On a normal day, the hall would erupt for Robespierre. Today, the silence cuts like a knife. One by one, his allies turn. Tallien, his old revolutionary brother, calls him a tyrant. Billaud Varennes shouts dictator. Even Barrère, his loyal mouthpiece, joins the chorus. The accuser of all now stands accused. The chamber explodes, a frenzy of rage. For the first time, Robespierre is powerless. He tries to speak. His lips move, but no sound comes. He freezes, trapped in disbelief. The voice that condemned thousands is now gone. Down with the tyrant. The roar shakes the hall. The vote is quick, almost cruelly so. Robespierre, his brother Augustin, and his closest allies, Saint-Just and Couthon, arrested. No one protests. Even his most loyal followers avert their eyes. The reign of terror has just devoured its maker. They drag him out through the corridors. The sunlight hits his face like a spotlight. Outside, crowds gather, silent, watching. A boy spits at his boots. A woman whispers, "That's him, the butcher of Paris." And for the first time, Robespierre feels what his victims must have felt. That slow, creeping cold of doom. They haul him to the Committee of General Security, the very office where he signed death warrants. Now he waits there, shackled, awaiting his own, but the revolution isn't done yet. Because what happens next flips the story upside down. Word spreads through Paris like wildfire. Robespierre's people, the Commune of Paris, refuse to believe it. They arm themselves, banging muskets against the cobblestones. The drums of rebellion echo through the narrow streets. Inside the committee building, guards flinch as the doors shake. Outside, the Commune's troops storm the entrance, shouting, "Liberty for Robespierre!" Gunfire, smoke, chaos, the guards are overrun. And in a shocking reversal, the prisoners are freed, but here's where it gets worse. The rescue that saves Robespierre also seals his fate. They rush him to City Hall, Hôtel de Ville, turning it into a fortress. Barricades rise. Cannons are rolled into windows. The smell of powder fills the air, but there's a problem. The Hôtel de Ville sits in the center of Paris. No escape. No secret tunnel, just open streets and incoming soldiers. Inside, Robespierre sits in a dim, smoky office. Around him, Saint-Just, Couthon, Augustin, Lebas, the inner circle of the terror. Men who once commanded France with the stroke of a pen, now prisoners of their own revolution. Outside, the convention's army gathers, 6,000 men under General Barras. Artillery wheels clatter. The ground trembles. The hotel is surrounded. Inside, whispers rise. "We must flee." "The Seine?" "Boats wait. We can still escape." Robespierre just stares, frozen, silent. Why doesn't he run? Some say pride. Others say faith that the people will save him. But maybe deep down he knows There is nowhere left to go. Every city in France has a guillotine now. Every mayor knows his face. Flight would only buy him a slower death. The clock ticks. The air grows thicker with sweat, smoke, fear. Somewhere outside, a church bell rings. The first sound of evening. The incorruptible sits motionless, staring at the floor. The convention's cannons roll into position. The sky glows orange with the last light of day. General Barras hesitates. One cannonball could destroy the archives of the revolution itself, but his men are restless. They want blood inside chaos. Henriot, commander of the Paris National Guard, bursts in. If anyone can save Robespierre, it's him, but he's drunk, blindingly drunk, his uniform stained with wine, his speech slurred. The room falls silent as he staggers, salutes, then collapses into a chair, the last hope of the Commune. Arrives drunk at his post. The men look at each other, and something breaks. Faith, discipline, loyalty. One by one, they start to slip away. Some vanish into the night. Others quietly change sides. Robespierre's army melts away like mist. The man who made France bleed cannot even command a handful of guards. The convention makes its final move. Robespierre is declared an outlaw, no trial, no appeal. Anyone can kill him on sight. The same law he used to silence others now turns against him. Town criers spread the news through Paris. Robespierre condemned. Dead or alive, 15,000 livres reward. Posters slap against walls. The ink barely dries before it's torn down and copied again. By nightfall, the city becomes a hunting ground. And Robespierre, he's the prey. City Hall empties. Councillors who swore loyalty hours ago quietly vanish. Guards desert. Even the clerks flee, clutching papers and ledgers as if escaping a sinking ship. By 10:30, only a handful remain. Robespierre sits at his desk, pale and shaking. He takes up a pen. One last time. He writes to his sister Charlotte, to his beloved dog, Brount. To the people of France, the handwriting is weak, lines broken by tremors. Every word looks like a man trying to hold on to something that's already gone. He signs each letter, Maximilien Robespierre, defender of the Republic. But even now, no one's listening. Gunfire, screams, boots pounding on marble floors. The convention's troops storm City Hall from three sides. Bayonets flash in candlelight. The defenders fire wildly, a few desperate shots, then scatter. Inside a small committee room, Robespierre and his closest allies barricade the door with chairs and desks. But musket balls tear through the wood. Saint-Just reloads in silence. Couthon prays. Lebus, calm, almost peaceful, raises a pistol to his head and fires. He falls across a pile of revolutionary papers, blood soaking the words, liberty, equality, fraternity. Then, a single gunshot. Another. And then, silence. When the soldiers burst through the door, they find chaos. Blood, smoke, bodies. And Robespierre, sitting at a table, his jaw blown apart. Some say he pulled the trigger himself, aiming for the brain but missing. Others swear a soldier shot him. Either way, the result is the same. The incorruptible is broken. His jaw hangs loose, bleeding. He can't speak. He can't cry out he's alive, but ruined. The soldiers drag him out. His blood leaves a trail through the marble corridors of City Hall. Outside, Paris watches. Women curse him. Men throw stones. Children chant, "Down with the tyrant." The stretcher jolts over cobblestones. Every bump a scream behind, clenched teeth. The man who ruled France with fear now trembles before its fury. But here's the haunting truth. Robespierre isn't dead yet. He will live to see his own execution. They carry him to the Tuileries Palace, turned into a makeshift prison. A surgeon works by candlelight. The air smells of blood, alcohol, and fear. His tongue is almost severed. His jaw shattered in 3 places. The surgeon binds it shut with strips torn from a tablecloth. He will survive for a few more hours. Long enough to meet the blade he created. As dawn breaks, the city stirs. Church bells ring again, for the first time since the terror began. But they don't ring for victory. They ring for execution. The sun rises over a different Paris. The same people who once whispered in fear now flood the streets in song. Robespierre, the incorruptible, lies bound and broken in the same building where he once decided who would live and who would die. And in a few hours, he'll face the same justice he preached. But what no one knows yet is that his downfall wasn't fate, it was luck. One misfired pistol, one drunken general, and 20 minutes of chaos. Because if that gun had fired true, if City Hall had held for just half an hour longer, France would have woken to something far darker. A new reign of terror written in his own hand. When they searched his desk, they found a list. No one knew it existed. No one knew whose names were on it. But every man in Paris feared they might be. Some say this list was Robespierre's final weapon. Others say it never existed at all. Yet the truth, hidden, burned, and buried, is what truly ended the reign of terror. Cue slow violin under faint crowd noise. We're back in Paris, dawn of July 28th, 1794. The sun creeps over Paris. The air is heavy, thick with gunpowder, smoke, and rumor. The Hôtel de Ville, once the fortress of revolution, is now a morgue. Bodies of Robespierre's allies lie sprawled across marble floors, blood dried to rust. But soldiers aren't looking for corpses. They're searching desks, cabinets, hidden drawers, because every man in the convention heard the same whisper the night before. Robespierre had a list, a secret document naming every traitor, every conspirator, every man destined for the guillotine. If that list exists, it could condemn half the new government. Outside, the news spreads faster than the sunrise. From taverns to bakeries, the words repeat like a curse. They've found his papers. Names, ministers, generals, even the convention's president is on it. The same deputies who celebrated his downfall last night now wake in cold sweat. If their names were there, even one, the mob could turn again in an instant. And that's the irony. Even dead, Robespierre still controls France. Through fear. Inside the Hôtel de Ville, a soldier pries open a mahogany drawer. The lock breaks. Papers spill, letters, orders, personal notes. And beneath them, a folded sheet sealed with wax, faded handwriting across the top. A présenté à la convention demain, to be presented to the convention tomorrow. The men freeze tomorrow. That means he planned to reveal it on July 28th. The very morning of his execution, they open it slowly. Lines of names, columns of signatures, but here's where the story fractures. Because no one agrees on what happened next. Version 1. The lost paper clerk named Courtois later claimed he burned it on Barras's orders, fearing the chaos it would cause. He said it named over 80 deputies, half the men who now ruled France. Version 2. The forged list others said it was a fake, a myth spread by Robespierre's enemies to justify killing him. The so-called list might have been nothing more than a draft speech, a warning, not an execution order. Version 3, the hidden copy, and then there's the darkest version, that a single surviving copy was taken that morning by a man named Tallien, the same Tallien who shouted, "Tyrant," in the convention, the same man who led the charge to arrest Robespierre. If true, it means the revolution's new hero saved himself by stealing the evidence that condemned him. As soldiers argue over papers, in a nearby room Robespierre lies still, his hands bound, his jaw clamped shut by bandages soaked through with blood. Every few minutes he drifts between consciousness and agony. Sometimes he groans, a sound too low to be words. His eyes dart to the window, sunlight spilling through. He can't speak, can't warn anyone, can't defend the truth of his list. Outside the door, two guards whisper, they say he kept names. Even yours. Mine! Who knows? He wrote everyone down. Fear spreads like a second disease, even among those who caught him. None can be sure whether they've truly killed their enemy, or only silenced the evidence. Drums echo across Paris. Thousands pour into the streets. This time not for a festival, but an execution. 22 prisoners are marched toward the guillotine. Among them, Robespierre, his brother Augustin Saint-Just-Couthon, and the last loyal members of the Commune, each bound, silent, pale. When they pass the market square, the crowd erupts, not in fear but vengeance, death to the tyrant. Let the butcher taste his own blade. For months, these people had watched friends vanish to the guillotine under Robespierre's orders. Now they cheer as the same cart carries him to his own, Place de la Révolution, the stage of history's bloodiest theater. The scaffold stands high, splattered with weeks of dried blood. The same platform where Danton died, where Marie Antoinette fell. And now, the man who sent them both there. Robespierre's head lolls, his jaw tightly bandaged. His face, ashen, eyes glassy. The executioner tears off the bandage. The wound bursts open, blood pours down his chest. A scream, muffled and gurgling, escapes. The crowd roars in savage delight. Some laugh, others faint even now. He tries to stand straight, to look defiant. But his legs tremble. They tie him to the plank. He catches sight of Saint-Just beside him. The angel of death, only 26, still serene. Their eyes meet. A brief nod, no words needed. The blade rises. For a heartbeat, Paris holds its breath. The guillotine falls. The sound, a dull, wet thud. Cheers explode. Trumpets blare. The crowd surges like a wave. A guard lifts the severed head high. The executioner cries, "Robespierre is dead!" But the sound that follows isn't triumph. It's confusion. Because as his head rolls into the basket, a small folded paper slips from his coat. The soldier bends down, unfolds it, and freezes. A list. Faded ink, names, numbers, no heading, no signature, but every name familiar. Barras, Tallien, Billard, the very men who killed him. They snatch the paper instantly. Within minutes, it's tossed into the fire, gone, but a clerk sees it, writes down what little he remembers. And his notes, hidden for decades, will later resurface, proving that Robespierre did have a list, not of victims, but of corruption. It wasn't an execution order, it was evidence, proof that his rivals were stealing from the Republic, selling pardons, trading lives for gold. He wasn't planning another purge, he was planning to expose them all, and that's why he died. The crowd disperses. The guillotine glistens red. A stray dog laps at the puddle beneath the scaffold. The reign of terror ends, not with revolution, but with silence. The same men who condemned Robespierre now take his seat. They speak of freedom, of peace, and within weeks begin their own purges. The blade keeps falling, only the names change, and the list, gone, burned, denied, yet whispered about for centuries. Years later, in a dusty archive, a historian finds a fragment, a single page marked by candle wax and blood. It bears no names, only one line scrawled in Robespierre's unmistakable hand. When corruption becomes law, justice becomes terror. For 2 centuries, that line will divide historians. Was he a saint of virtue, or a monster blinded by his own righteousness? But one truth remains undeniable. His enemies feared his words more than his blade, and perhaps that's why, even in death, they made sure no one ever read what he truly wrote. Paris still smells of blood and smoke. The streets, once alive with revolutionary fervor, are now a hunting ground of whispers and fear. Robespierre is gone, but his shadow lingers. In a small military office, a young officer watches the city's chaos with cold calculation. Napoleon Bonaparte, barely 25, sees what others miss. How power is seized not by speeches or ideals, but by fear, speed, and timing. Every fallen Jacobin, every deserter, every trembling clerk is a lesson. But here's the shocking part. Napoleon doesn't just observe, he takes notes. He studies the mistakes of Robespierre, the moment when the architect of terror froze, paralyzed by pride and paranoia. And he marks the pattern. To survive, you must never be caught flat-footed. Meanwhile, the remnants of the Commune scramble. Some loyal guards flee, some hide evidence. And somewhere in the Hôtel de Ville, a single piece of paper survives, hinting at unfinished plots. Napoleon hears rumors. the hidden list of names, the potential purge Robespierre never executed. It gets worse. Those who tried to step into Robespierre's shoes now fear him more dead than alive. Shadows of terror remain, teaching Paris that the blade can fall even without a hand to swing it. Napoleon begins to see opportunity in chaos, a lesson etched in blood. By nightfall, the city exhales. Yet for Napoleon, it's only the beginning. He has learned that power thrives in the spaces between fear and law, obedience and terror. The next act of history is quietly being written by a man who knows exactly what the reign of terror almost achieved and intends to finish it in his own way. Paris is quiet, but it is a deceptive calm. The streets, slick with the blood of yesterday's executions, reflect the rising sun like a warning. Behind closed doors, in the offices Robespierre once commanded, investigators sort through his belongings, papers, ledgers, journals. At first glance, they see what they expect, a man obsessed with virtue, a revolutionary who built fear like an empire. But as the hours pass, a darker truth emerges. Hidden in a secret drawer, nearly invisible unless you knew its exact position, is a folder marked in Robespierre's precise, meticulous hand. Inside are names, hundreds of them, deputies, generals, mayors, clerks, men and women who had survived the previous purges, now scheduled for arrest in a single sweeping action planned for July 30th. A purge designed to consume not just Paris, but the entire Republic. And here's the shocking part. He had prepared not one, but multiple execution sites. Guillotines fully stocked in every major district. Steam-driven mechanisms to accelerate death. France was to awaken under a systematic wave of terror, so complete, so industrial, that no one would be safe. The investigators stare, horrified. 5 years of careful bureaucracy, of revolutionary committees, of blood-inked orders, all pointing toward a single goal: total purification by death. Robespierre had not intended chaos. He had designed it. The reign of terror would have become a machine, a killing apparatus running with clockwork precision. Meanwhile, word of the documents leaks. Deputies who had celebrated Robespierre's fall now scramble in fear. Alliances fracture. Even the most confident generals, who had once executed his orders without hesitation, question whether they have escaped his reach. Every city hall, every provincial government suddenly feels like a potential execution chamber. Robespierre's journals tell another story, more intimate and terrifying. He records sleepless nights, haunted by conspiracies, paranoia sharpening his mind like a blade. Each name on the list represents someone who betrayed the Republic in his eyes and who must be removed. Loyalty counts for nothing. Friendship counts for nothing. Virtue demands sacrifice, and he is ready to sacrifice everyone. By late afternoon, the scale of his plan becomes terrifyingly clear. France is bankrupt, torn by war, and yet he planned to fund his final purge through confiscation. Legal theft, dressed as revolutionary justice. Executions would replenish the treasury. Death was currency, and in the center of it all, Robespierre sat, untouchable in his mind, the incorruptible architect of mass slaughter. But fate, chance, and human error intervene. His gunshot misses the brain. Henriette arrives drunk. The Commune falters. Paris itself becomes a cage, cutting off all escape. In the span of hours, the meticulously designed machinery of terror collapses under its own weight. The city that was to be swept clean by Robespierre's plan survives by accident, and it gets worse. Investigators find drafts of speeches meant to incite fear and loyalty simultaneously, drafted to justify mass arrests. In Robespierre's mind, public opinion was a tool, manipulated through propaganda, panic, and virtue. Entire sections of government were to be hollowed out overnight. Military commanders, judges, local officials, all marked for replacement. The reign of terror would have extended far beyond Paris into every province. The discovery leaves the assembly shaken. They realized that the terror they believed over was only delayed. Had the misfired pistol not occurred, Had the assault on Hôtel de Ville been delayed by 20 minutes, France would have woken to a country stripped of leadership, ready for chaos or foreign conquest. The revolution might have burned itself alive. Among the papers, personal letters add a chilling layer. Charlotte Robespierre pleads for mercy. Augustin writes of doubts. Friends question the endless blood, yet the leader remains resolute. Virtue, in his philosophy, demands purity through annihilation. He would have acted alone if necessary. His plan shows a mind both brilliant and unyielding, a perfectionist of destruction. As night falls on July 29th, investigators catalogue the remaining wealth and possessions. He was poor by any standard, richer in ideology than coin. Law books, medals, a modest watch, the trappings of a man who consumed France with words and ideas more than gold. Yet in those same drawers are the tools of terror, lists, drafts, plans for industrialized death. By candlelight, historians later remark, a nation's fate teeters in those rooms. Chance, misjudgment, and a drunk general spared France from a cataclysm. Robespierre's vision for the mechanization of terror, once laid bare, reveals a blueprint for unimaginable slaughter. The architect of the reign of terror had planned to make it permanent, unstoppable, and merciless. And the most terrifying truth: his papers prove it wasn't random chaos, but careful, cold, calculated engineering of mass death. Paris survived not by revolt, nor by heroism, but by accident. And those who stumbled upon the secret could only shiver, knowing how close they had come to total annihilation. The reign of terror had ended. But the ghost of Robespierre's design lingers, a reminder that the machinery of death can exist in the mind, and that sometimes survival is only luck, not justice. Paris is still. The streets, once alive with revolutionary chants, are now eerily quiet. Smoke drifts from alleyways, windows shuttered. Only whispers move through the city, carrying the news like a dark promise. Robespierre is to die today. Inside the Hôtel de Ville, the remnants of his inner circle sit in silence. Augustin paces, fractured by fear. Guillotine, paralyzed, prays, his trembling hands betraying a lifetime of loyalty. Saint-Just sits like a stone statue, face impassive, eyes fixed on the floor. Robespierre himself lies slumped, his jaw shattered, a grotesque mask of blood and bandages. He cannot speak. He cannot shout. He cannot defend himself. The guards whisper outside, "The convention comes." No mercy this time. He built the terror, and now it builds him a coffin. By midnight, cannon fire shatters the night, signaling the assault. The Commune's defenders, once fierce, scatter. Leadership gone, discipline broken, chaos reigns. Desperate volleys of musket fire echo through marble halls, but each shot falls into emptiness. Robespierre's empire of fear collapses faster than it was built. And here's the shocking part. The pistol meant to end his life fails. His own hand trembles. The gun misfires, shattering his jaw instead of his brain. The man who controlled death now bleeds helplessly on the floor. Soldiers storm the rooms. Augustin leaps from a window, legs broken, barely alive. Guillotine is dragged like a broken doll. Saint-Just submits silently. The terror's inner circle ends in less than 15 minutes. Not by trial, not by ideology, but by the raw chaos they once unleashed. They drag Robespierre to the streets. His blood soaks through makeshift bandages. Crowds pour from darkened houses, cursing, hurling stones, laughing at the fallen tyrant. The man who sent thousands to the guillotine now depends on strangers to survive his final journey. Every jolt of the tumbril sends fresh agony through his shattered jaw. At Place de la Révolution, the crowd is immense. 15,000 throats bay for blood. Women scream, men shout, children throw debris. The same people who once cheered his speeches now want him dead more than they want bread. The guillotine waits, gleaming wet ready. The executioner tears away the bandage. Robespierre lets out a gurgling shriek, raw and inhuman, echoing across the square. The blade falls. Silence. Then uproar. Paris explodes in frenzy. Wine flows, church bells ring, celebration and horror intertwined. The man who orchestrated terror lies dead. His head is raised to the crowd, a grisly crown for a tyrant, but the story does not end there. Citizens swarm his home, tearing through his possessions. They find the green coat torn to pieces. Books, letters, personal effects, modest, precise, yet revealing a mind obsessed with virtue and control. And somewhere, among the ashes of destroyed documents, whispers persist. The hidden list, the secret plans for purges never executed. Robespierre may be dead, but his shadow lingers. By dawn, the reign of terror has ended, but the lessons of his rise and fall remain. Fear, obsession, and meticulous cruelty nearly consumed France entirely. Chance, misjudgment, and human error spared the nation from the full extent of his designs. A pistol misfired. A drunken commander arrived. 20 minutes of delay saved Paris from unimaginable slaughter. And here's the chilling truth. In another time, another place, a man watching all of this, young, calculating, ambitious, learns every lesson. Fear, control, and the machinery of death can be mastered. And history will remember him not for mercy, but for power. Robespierre is gone. Paris celebrates, but the terror he perfected, the system of fear, lists, and blood will never die. The final words etched in history. When virtue becomes obsession and terror becomes law, even the incorruptible can fall. And yet the machine keeps turning.